What if I told you that pain isn't your enemy, but your guide? That the moments that break you are, quite literally, the very moments shaping you into who you are supposed to become. We spend our whole lives running from pain, numbing it, hiding it, distracting ourselves from it. Yet the Stoics, the philosophers of fire and endurance, they knew something we've forgotten. Pain isn't punishment, it is liberation. As Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who ruled Rome through plague, betrayal, and war, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was living it. Every obstacle, every heartbreak, every sleepless night became the forge of his soul. But here's the thing. We live in an age where comfort has replaced courage. We think freedom means ease. We think peace means no struggle. But freedom, real freedom, doesn't come from escape. It comes from endurance. It is born in pain, not pleasure. So let's go there, into the fire. Into the brutal beauty of Stoicism, where pain isn't the end of you. It is the beginning. You see, pain is life's most honest teacher. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't lie. It doesn't care about your ego. It breaks you open and forces you to see what is real. The Stoics knew this. Seneca said, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests the brave." Think about that. Fire doesn't destroy gold, it purifies it. The Stoics saw pain not as an interruption to life, but as part of it, the necessary heat that turns weakness into wisdom. But we've learned differently. From the moment we're born, we're led to believe that we must pursue comfort, avoid suffering, and make life as easy as possible. And yet, the easier life gets, the weaker we become. The ancestors endured wars, hunger, loss, and still found meaning. We panic when Wi-Fi drops. We are surrounded by convenience but starving for purpose. Why? Because ease breeds emptiness. And pain, though we hate it, gives us depth. Music rises. A faint sound of wind and thunder. Marcus Aurelius suffered loss after loss. His empire crumbled around him. But in his private journal, Meditations, he wrote not complaints but reflections. He reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He did not run from pain, he ruled it. And because he did, he discovered something few others ever do. Pain is the gate to peace, but here is the twist. You don't get to choose when pain comes. You only get to choose what you do with it. That is the Stoic difference. Most people suffer twice, first in reality, then in resistance. The Stoic suffers once. They don't waste energy wishing it were different. They ask, how can I use this? Whenever something hurtful happens to you, a breakup, a betrayal, a loss, you have two paths. You can fall apart, or you can forge yourself. One is easier, one is eternal. The Stoics didn't deny pain. They sat with it, studied it, and stripped it of its powers by not looking away. It is only when you stop fearing pain that you can begin to master it. As Seneca once said, a gem cannot be polished without friction, or a man perfected without trials. That is the Stoic law. The price of brilliance is friction, and the toll on strength is suffering. You can't have one without the other, but our culture worships comfort. It tells you to chase dopamine, validation, pleasure. The Stoic whispers the opposite. Seek discomfort, run toward the fire. Because in the fire you meet your true self. Marcus didn't get wise sitting on a throne. He got wise through the sleepless nights, through grief, through uncertainty. Epictetus wasn't born free, but rather was a slave who found freedom in the mind. He taught that no man can harm you unless you allow it. Not because pain isn't real, but because meaning is stronger than misery. Pain informs you about what is untrained. It lets you see where you are still fragile and where you still react instead of respond. Every moment of suffering is feedback from life, lessons written in discomfort. And the Stoic doesn't complain about it, he studies it. The Stoic path is brutal because it demands honesty. No faking, no excuse making. You can't fake strength here. You either learn to control your mind or your mind controls you. You either use pain or pain uses you. The beauty of Stoicism isn't that it removes suffering. It is that it transforms it. Obstacles become allies. Hardships become training. Heartbreaks become rebirth. But you have to make that choice, consciously, daily, relentlessly. For life won't stop throwing stones at you. The Stoic just learns how to build with them. So the next time you feel pain, don't numb it. Don't run from it. Don't curse it. Breathe it in. Observe it. Ask yourself, what is this teaching me about myself? Because buried inside every wound is a lesson that will set you free. Freedom doesn't mean no pain, it means no chains. The chains are your reactions, your need for comfort, your fear of struggle, your dependence on things outside of your control. Break those, and nothing can touch you again. That is the brutal beauty of Stoicism. Not because it makes life easier, but because it makes you stronger than the hard moments in life. Because pain does not make you broken. It makes you awake. Pain doesn't just test you, it trains you. The Stoics didn't get through pain by accident, they practiced it. They knew that freedom from fear can't come from avoidance, but rather from exposure. Mastering discomfort means living inside of it. Epictetus was born into slavery. His body was beaten, his will was tested, his freedom denied. Yet he would go on to become one of the greatest philosophers who had ever lived. Why? Because he knew this truth: you cannot control what happens to you, but you can always control what you become because of it. He said, difficulties show a person's character. In adversity, a man is revealed. Think about that. You don't build character in comfort, you expose it in crisis. That's why the Stoic trains for pain, because pain doesn't just come from loss or tragedy. It comes from discipline. It comes from the decision to delay comfort for something greater. Seneca once spent days sleeping on the floor, eating the bare minimum, and wearing rough clothes. Not because he was poor, but because he wanted to be ready if poverty came. He called that voluntary discomfort. To the modern world, that sounds insane. Why would anyone choose hardship? But the Stoics knew why. If you can handle little pain by choice, you'll be unshaken when life brings great pain by force. You see, that is the difference between the strong and the fragile. The fragile wait for life to test them. The strong test themselves. Discipline for the Stoic isn't punishment, it is preparation. Every act of self-control is a rehearsal for chaos. Every decision to avoid that thing you want in the moment builds that muscle for when life burns down the hard option by making the easy one impossible. Marcus Aurelius ruled amidst plague, war, and betrayal, yet still he rose before dawn, still trained his mind in gratitude and focus, still wrote his reflections amidst the collapse. He didn't wait for peace, he created it through discipline. It was he who wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." That's Stoicism in action, no talk, no theory, just practice every day, especially when it hurts. But let's be real, most people don't want that kind of freedom. People want comfort dressed as control. They want strength without sacrifice, peace without pressure, happiness without hardship. But that is not the way life works. The Stoics knew every shortcut in life comes with some sort of hidden price. Every comfort you cling to weakens you. Every struggle you face trains you. The body of the Stoic may ache, but his spirit sharpens. His mind becomes the blade, his patience the shield. That is how he finds freedom, not through escaping pain, but by mastering how he reacts to it. As Epictetus used to say to his students, don't wish for events to happen as you want, but wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will flow well. That's not passivity, it's alignment. The Stoic doesn't resist the current, he learns how to steer in it. When you live that way, pain becomes your compass. Every difficulty points you towards something you still need to strengthen. Impatience shows where you lack peace. Fear shows where you lack faith in your own power. Anger shows where you still need understanding. Every emotion, every ache becomes data for growth. Most people pray for an easier life. The Stoic prays for a stronger mind, because an easier life doesn't exist, but a stronger mind does. As Seneca said, no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. That's the heart of Stoic discipline. Pain is proof of your potential, discomfort a doorway to clarity. You don't need more comfort, you need more courage. And here is what is brutal. Courage doesn't feel good. It is not glamorous. It is waking up tired and showing up anyway. It is hearing your fear and walking toward it. It is saying no when your impulses beg for yes. Every time you choose discipline over ease, you are walking the Stoic path. The Stoics knew that discipline is not about control, it is about liberation. The more you train your mind, the less you are enslaved by emotion. The more you embrace discomfort, the less you are controlled by fear. The more you endure pain willingly, the less you suffer from it unwillingly. The problem is not pain, it is avoidance. Because pain always has something to offer: knowledge, humility, strength. The question is, are you listening? It is not that the Stoic only endures pain, he converses with it. He asks, what are you trying to teach me? And once you ask that question, pain isn't an enemy anymore. It is a mentor. So when you feel pain, physical, emotional, mental, don't run from it. Study it. Use it. For the Stoic doesn't break when life burns. He hardens like steel. doesn't drown when emotions rise. He learns to breathe under the water. Every hardship you face is your mind's training ground. Every frustration, a test of your focus. Every loss, a test of your heart. Every failure, a test of your faith. And if you can endure them, not just survive them, but grow through them, you learn a kind of freedom that no one can take from you. The Stoics didn't seek pleasure. The Stoics sought power, not over others, but over self. That's real mastery. That's real peace. Music gradually fades into silence, nothing but the sound of a quiet wind. Because once you've trained yourself to face pain with discipline, you no longer live in fear of it. And when you no longer fear pain, then you are finally free. The music swells softly again, a hint of golden light in sound. But freedom doesn't end there. For once the Stoic masters pain, he must learn how to transform it. To turn suffering into strength, chaos into clarity, and loss into wisdom. That is where the next chapter begins. There is a moment. After pain has burned through you, when everything goes quiet, it is not peace yet. It is emptiness, the kind that makes one wonder who they are without the struggle. Most people fear that silence, so they rush to fill it, with distraction, with noise, with anything that numbs. But the Stoics didn't run from that void. They stepped into it, because inside that emptiness lies transformation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you will always look." That source doesn't appear when life is easy. It appears after you've been broken, after everything external has failed. The Stoic doesn't rebuild by running away from pain. He rebuilds by facing it until it no longer controls him. You see, pain is a fire, but it is also a forge. The Stoic understands that what is burning isn't his identity, it is his illusions. Every time life hurts you, it is stripping away the parts of you that were never real to begin with. Comfort hides weakness. Struggle reveals it. Pain removes everything false, ego, fear, dependency, and leaves behind only what is true. As Seneca said, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Most of the suffering isn't from pain itself. It is from the story we tell ourselves about it. We call it unfair, cruel, meaningless. But the Stoic removes those words. He sees pain as neutral, as nature, as part of the process. That is what transformation really is. Not avoiding suffering, but assigning it purpose. When life breaks you, there are two different questions you can ask. Why me? Or what now? The first keeps you trapped. The second sets you free. The Stoic chooses the second every time. Marcus Aurelius lost his children, his wife, his friends. He led an empire in chaos, slept little, trusted few. But he didn't become bitter. He became boundless. He wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive. To think, to enjoy, to love." That wasn't denial. It was defiance. Gratitude as rebellion to still love. Pain is the only teacher that doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't take your comfort zone into consideration. It rips off everything that is not essential. And if you let it, your pain becomes purification. The process through which your suffering turns into wisdom. That is what the Stoic path demands. Not the avoidance of emotion, but the disciplining of it. You can feel grief without drowning in it. You can feel anger without being owned by it. You can feel fear without obeying it. The Stoic doesn't numb, he notices. He doesn't suppress. He studies because emotion is energy. Uncontrolled, it consumes you. Directed, it transforms you. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The Stoic knows that the mind creates most of its own torment. Fear of pain hurts more than pain itself. Worries about the future weigh heavier than the present. So he trains his perception, because if he can control how he sees the world, he can control how he feels in it. That is why Stoicism isn't just philosophy, it is strategy. When life hurts, the Stoic doesn't collapse, he reframes. Instead of saying, "This is killing me," he says, "This is training me." Instead of, "Why is this happening?" he asks, "How can this serve me?" And the more you do that, the less power pain has over you, because perspective turns suffering into strength. To the Stoic, pain is a sculptor, cutting, shaping, refining. Every hardship carves you into something new. Every loss deepens your empathy. Every betrayal sharpens your judgment. Every failure humbles your ego. Every heartbreak strengthens your soul. There is beauty in that brutality, because through it, you discover something the soft will never understand. Freedom is not the absence of pain. It is the mastery of it. When you master pain, you stop fearing it. And when you stop fearing pain, no one can control you. No loss, no insult, no uncertainty can shake your peace. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." True freedom isn't political, financial, or emotional. It is internal. It is the kind of freedom nobody can take, no matter how much they hurt you. You see, most people spend their whole lives avoiding discomfort, and that avoidance becomes their prison. The Stoic does the opposite. He walks straight into the fire, not because he loves pain, but because he refuses to be ruled by fear. That is why Stoicism is brutal. Because it asks you to face yourself, to admit your weakness, to train your mind, to walk through the things you'd rather avoid. But that is also why it is beautiful. Because on the other side of that fire, you find something no comfort can give you. Peace earned, not borrowed. The world tells you to seek happiness. The Stoic tells you to seek harmony, with nature, with truth, with yourself. Happiness is temporary. Harmony is eternal. Because when life tests you, when everything feels like it is falling apart, remember, it is not punishment, it is preparation. It is teaching you to stop depending on everything that can be taken away. The Stoic doesn't lose himself when he loses things, because his strength isn't in what he owns. It is in what he controls, his thoughts, his actions, his response. That is the secret to transformation. Pain doesn't free you by leaving. It frees you by changing you. When you stop running, stop hiding, and stop fearing. Pain becomes purpose. Suffering becomes fuel. And you begin to understand that life's most painful lessons are the ones that make you truly alive. That is what the Stoics meant by freedom. Not escape, not comfort, but clarity. The kind you only earn by walking through the fire and emerging unburned. Because freedom isn't found in pleasure, it is found in pain understood. The sound completely fades out. The narrator pauses, but the Stoics knew one more truth. Transformation means nothing if you can't maintain it. The next test isn't surviving pain, but mastering the peace afterward. The calm that follows the storm may be more dangerous than the storm itself. The hardest battle isn't the storm. It is the silence that follows it. The Stoics knew this. After the fire burns, after the suffering ends, after transformation begins, the test isn't over, because peace, once found, is fragile. And if you don't protect it, the world will take it back. You see, pain wakes you up, but comfort puts you back to sleep. And the Stoic refuses to sleep through life. That's why, even after enduring unimaginable hardship, they stayed vigilant. Because comfort is seductive, it whispers, "You've earned rest, you've done enough. Stop training, stop growing." But that's the same whisper that weakens your edge. The Stoic doesn't mistake rest for retreat. He rests like a warrior, aware, intentional, disciplined. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." He did not write that in peace. He wrote it surrounded by disease and betrayal and loss. And yet, he reminded himself daily that to live one must be in a state of constant wakefulness, even in quiet moments. Especially during quiet moments, because the calm is deceptive. When life gets easy again, most people stop practicing. They stop observing. They lose control. They forget the lessons pain taught them. But the Stoic understands. Peace is not something you keep, it's something you maintain. As Seneca said, we suffer more from imagination than from reality. And he was right. Most chaos doesn't come from the world. It comes from the mind. The Stoic trains not to avoid external storms, but to prevent internal ones. The world will always shift. That is nature. The Stoic's job is to stay still within it. Just imagine, you made it through it all. The pain, the failure, the loss. You got yourself together. And then peace. No more chaos, no more battles. But slowly, something creeps in. Comfort. Pride. You stop journaling. You stop paying attention to your reactions. That is when your strength starts to fade. The Stoic knows this trap well. That is why they practiced memento mori. Remember, you will die. It wasn't morbid, it was grounding. A daily reminder that time is short, that peace isn't guaranteed, that every moment demands awareness. The moment you forget how fragile life is, you start wasting it again. Marcus Aurelius used to wake up at dawn and write in his journal, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to love." That's the Stoic practice, to see each day as a gift, not a guarantee. Peace for the Stoic.